Happy Wednesday, everyone. We got some fun stuff coming your way. We got a little bit more strength endurance coming up. Very similar to last week in terms of the format. We're going to stick with this for a couple weeks and just have some fun with it. But a couple different exercises thrown in there in place of some others. So let's talk about that today. What we got? Warm up. Wide stance, good morning for 5 to 10. Side lunge 10 at a 303 tempo. Dynamic triangle, 3 per side. Windmill for 3 a side, and then a Sumo Squat for 3 to 5 at a 3-1-3 tempo. 2 rounds of that just to give yourself a once-over. And then after that, any practice that you need to do for any of these movements, because we want you pretty comfortable with what you're doing and moving well with the movements and the loading before we start the work set, because there's not a lot of resting going on between this. And when we do get the rest, we want you to rest, not frantically kind of figuring out what you're doing for the next phase. So a little practice round or a run through of each one just to make sure you're good and comfortable with the movements is key. The first work set we have for you guys is 5 rounds. We have a foot assisted pistol for 20 seconds. You are going to do 10 seconds on one side, 10 seconds on the other side. So just keep an eye on that clock, work on that skill, flip your feet, work on that skill on the other side, and then tackle it as you come into the next 40 seconds of that minute. You are going to do dumbbell suitcase march. So you're going to hold that dumbbell to the side and you're going to work on that good march for 20 seconds, flip it over, and 20 seconds. So it's a nice opportunity to work on a little bit of unilateral work on that grip a little bit, and work on keeping everything nice and square and our upper body still. You'll hit that for 5 rounds. Preferably, the goal is to do it without any rest in between the rounds. If you do need to take some rest in between rounds, and you're like, I need at least a minute between these rounds, take it, because I want you to think quality opposed to just high intensity. So if you need the minute, take the minute. If you're like, I don't need the minute, I'm good, all right, then don't take the minute. Rock it for 5 rounds, which is 5 minutes, and then you're going to get a minute rest of transition into the next work phase. So the next work set is 3 rounds. So similar to last week with the 3 rounds of the core in the middle, you have 20 seconds of that plank walkout, or just continuous kind of movement. You're going to hold at each end for about a beat or 2, just to make sure you show control of that positioning and make sure you're stable and strong through the shoulder. Once that 20 seconds is up, you're going to come down to your forearm plank, and you're going to hold that forearm plank for 40 seconds. Now for some, that's a very long forearm plank. So if we start on our toes, and you're like, oh, I'm losing position, and it's still, we still got like 15 seconds left, drop your knees, all right? Drop your knees and maintain that tension so you continue the time under tension and you can rock the full 40 seconds. If you're like, nope, I'm losing position, I'm already on my knees, or going to my knees is not going to help position, then take the time off. Take the rest of that time off, rest, and then move back into that plank walkout. All right, so take the rest you need there, because this is a very challenging piece to hold for an extra 40 seconds after those plank walkouts. So I want you to think form and quality over just getting it done. Okay? Once we're done there, same rules apply. If you need to take a minute after each round, you can, or you can choose not to and go right through with just steady state movement for 3 minutes, and then you get a minute of rest, and then we'll move into our last round, which is 5 rounds of more lower body, where we're going to do 20 seconds worth of dumbbell deadlifts, 2 dumbbells or a single, and then you're going to flip to a side lunge, which is going to be unloaded. So 40 seconds of just continuous side lunging back and forth to give you a chance to open up those hips and glutes and kind of stretch out those hamstrings a little bit as we move through those side lunges. Again, if you need to take a rest in between each of those rounds, you can, or if you don't want to do that, you can take it down for 5 minutes straight of steady state movement. And then you're done. And then you stretch out, call it a day, have a good time. All right? Let's get you warmed up, ready for this, and get you set for a good Wednesday. Let's get those feet under the hips. We'll take the arms big and tall up overhead. Let's just reach it to one side. Oh, and then we'll come back through. Reach it to the other side. Oh, come back up. We're going to scratch our back and do the same thing. Reach through that elbow and tricep. Come back up, big stretch. Scratch your back, reach through the elbow. Come back up, big stretch. Hands out to the T. We're going to turn them in, turn them out. the way down to the floor. We're gonna touch those toes. We're gonna walk up those shins, nice flat back. We'll come down. Frame of foot, we're gonna step back into our lizard. Inside hand is gonna lock on that front foot. We're gonna turn the torso. We'll come back to center and turn the torso. Back to center and turn the torso and back to center. We'll plant the hands. We're gonna extend back into our down dog, reaching those hips. We're gonna walk our heels back and forth. Nice and gentle, nice and smooth, nice and steady. Come back into our plank. We're gonna step our foot up. Lock that front foot in place. We're gonna turn the torso. Come back to center. Turn the torso. Back to center. And turn. And back to center. We'll plant the hand. Step it back. Into that down dog. We're gonna reach those hips again. Setting those shoulders and walking those heels out. Back and forth. Nice and steady. Just waking up the calves and the hamstrings a bit. We're gonna come back into our plank. Pressing into that good plank. Tiptoe those feet up. We're gonna roll ourselves up. Big stretch. Reach to one side. Oh, reach to the other side. Come on down with those hands. Whew. Let's get you guys fired up and ready to go. So if you need to do a little bit more gentle warm-up, some more lizard lunge, rotation, cat-cow, some wrist work, who knows, whatever it happens to be, pause the video, take it down, we'll get it going, and then we're gonna come back and we are gonna work through this lovely work set. So come on, join me with this top piece, and let's get ourselves set up. We're gonna get ourselves a nice wide stance, toes slightly turned out, nice and tall. We're gonna go through our wide stance good morning. So I'm gonna squeeze my glutes, and I'm gonna try and stay as tall and upright as I can. So I don't wanna go so wide that I can't stand up tall and open up my hips. So adjust your feet as necessary. I'm gonna turn profile though, so you guys can see my hips and my hinge. So I squeeze my glutes, I'm tall. I'm gonna pull the hips back and soften my knees as I get that nice hinge going. My center mass stays over top of my shoelaces. I'm gonna stand and squeeze nice and tall. From here, I'm gonna pull my hips back into that nice good morning. Nice and smooth. I'm gonna stand tall, big squeeze, and open up those hips fully. My goal again is to initiate through that hip. The hip hinge and the hips going back are what tips the body forward. So I want to make sure that I'm breaking at my hip crease and working through that range of motion that I have that my hamstrings will allow. From there, I'm going to move into my side lunge. So once I've done my 5 to 10, I'll stay in that wide stance. So I'm going to show you profile from this first so you guys can see my body position and my hip position. I'm going to take my hip to my heel, thinking squat. I'm going to think squat mechanics. So I take my hip to my heel. It might not go there range-wise, but that's the target I'm shooting for. Trying to stay upright like a squat, and then I push through that leg. And then I'm going to squeeze, pulling that hip down to that heel, trying to stay upright and stand. I'd much rather see you stop a little shorter in your range to keep the body upright and work to that edge, opposed to tipping over like a good morning. Because we want to open up those hips in that position for our squatting. And that's going to help. As long as we keep that body tall, it's going to really help open up the hip, the knee, the ankle, all those good pieces there that we need for good squats. From those side lunges, we're going to bring our feet in to our sumo stance. And this is the stance where we're going to stay for the remainder portion of our warm-up. So we're going to take our toes, one toe to the side, one toe in the angle, one hand to the thigh, big stretch to the sky. We're going to take that hip hinge, we're going to pull the hip back, keeping the arm up to the ceiling as we take it down the shin, and then we're going to take it all the way back up to the sky. Big stretch. Then we're going to pull the hip back into that nice hinge, and then again, squeezing to stand tall and open. Good, one more time, we pull back and that good hinge, so we get that hinge, that's what takes the body down, and then we squeeze to come back into that nice center mass position, okay? Once we change directions, we just have to make sure that our feet are proper width, because it's very easy sometimes to get our feet really narrow, and then we can feel kind of jammed up. So we want to make sure our feet stay in our proper positioning for our dynamic triangle on the other side as well. If you'd like to load that, you can, but keep it light. Focus on that good hip position and that nice opening of the hips and legs. From there though, we're going to move into our windmill. So our feet stay nice and flat. I'm going to take my arm up to the ceiling, actively trying to keep my armpit facing forward. That orientation is going to change as I rotate, but we're trying to keep the shoulder in the same place, not letting it move on its own in terms of rotating inwards onto that position. So pressing up, holding that position, soft knees. I'm going to pull the hips back, rotating low rib as we focus on that good rotation, taking it as deep as you feel comfortable. So if you cannot touch the floor, that is okay. Take it to where you can. So if you're set and you're going back, and you're like, I feel my shoulders starting to rotate in. Stop here and stand tall and work to that range point and that edge as you maintain and slowly open those positions. It's going to help as we get closer and closer to the floor. So if you need to set a little target up down there, you can as well. Just so you know where to go and that you're not going kind of just blind down to the floor or into that empty space. So set those things up for yourself if you need it, but we want to focus on the range we have, okay? Last but not least, we have our Sumo Squat. So we did a Sumo Squat hold yesterday. Today we're going to focus on the squat. So my stance is in the same position. I'm going to stand nice and tall with a big squeeze of my glute, taking my hips to the heels to keep the chest high. My weight is through the midfoot. I'm pressing out on those knees, and I'm standing tall. So I'm focusing on that tall, upright position, that nice solid engagement as I take the hips back. Nice tall chest, nice engagement, and then from here, I push through my feet and stand tall. Just like our regular squat, we want to think with the knees going out, but with the sumo, we want to think just a little bit more because there's more opportunity with that wider stance for the knees to collapse in. So we want to focus on those knees staying out and tracking those toes. Quick recap for you guys with this work set. We have a wide stance, good morning, 5 to 10 reps. Side lunge for 10 alternating, 303 tempo. Dynamic triangle for 3 aside. Windmill for 3 aside. And a sumo squat at 3 to 5 reps, 3-1-3 tempo. So we're taking those pretty slow all the way through. 2 rounds of that, we'll take that down to get our body ready. And then if you need to do a little practice of what's to come, we can move through that. But for now, pause the video, take that down, come along with me now. I'm gonna walk you through all the movements we're doing in our work set today. So our work set today starts with 5 rounds of our foot-assisted pistol. And the foot-assisted pistol can be done a couple different ways. If we're getting stronger with this position, and we want to try and focus on getting a little deeper with a little assistance, we can load this in a goblet squat position to help push the body down. So in that, all right, our positioning, I'm going to turn profile so you guys can see. My toe is going to come slightly back, just like if we were going to set up that kickstand for our RDL. I'm going to stand nice and tall. Now the focal point is this balancing leg. Flat foot, weight through the midfoot, and just like a normal air squat, I'm going to take my hip to my heel, focusing my weight over that flat foot, and then I'm going to push through that leg, only using this leg as a stabilizer, but we're using this leg to do all the pushing and the balancing, okay? So really focus on that nice solid drive through that leg. Now, if this position is getting easy, we can move it closer to the heel, and we can also tuck that foot on the back of the heel. So we're nice and tall, nice and set, and we take it the same position. We take the hip down towards the heel, but now we are relying on our leg, that balancing, pressing leg, to do the stabilizing and the balancing. So this foot tapping into the back of the heel can help keep us balanced a little bit, but it's not going to be that extra position on the floor. So it's a very challenging position. So pick your poison on that one, have some fun with it. Biggest thing we want to work on first though, before we make it harder, is range of motions. We want to make sure our range of motion is getting deeper and solid, and we're making sure we're balanced. All right, so don't make that one harder until that kickstand variation is pretty tough or pretty easy. After that, we have our Suitcase March. So we're going to use a dumbbell, and it can be relatively heavy if you have a multiple choice of dumbbell. but we're gonna hold it to the side. And our main priority focus is keeping our body nice and balanced and flat and engaged through that upper body. And we're gonna work on that nice, smooth march all the way through that work set back and forth through those legs, all right? So the movement comes from the lower body, working on that shift and that balance, working on control, working on stability through that leg, glutes engaged, core engaged, but that nice upper body is solid. We're trying to keep it from moving. We're gonna do 20 seconds on one side, flip the dumbbell, and just keep on going for that 20 seconds on the other side. So we're just trying not to lose too much time on that transition, just a quick switch over, set, and continue. All right? Take your time with that. Work on the height that allows you to work on your balance the best. So whatever that height happens to be for you, make it yours. After that, we go right back up into that pistol, or you can choose to take a minute rest in between the rounds if you'd like. So we've done those two movements. We're gonna move into the next one, which is 3 rounds of some pretty solid core work. So we're gonna take down a plank walkout, which is 20 seconds of just steady state movement. We can do this 2 ways. We can do it from our toes, or we can do it from our knees. Both are very challenging, but I want you to choose the one that's gonna allow you to challenge your hollow or your extended position the most while still maintaining that good hollow position. So both of them will start in a full plank. We pull the ribs in, we press the shoulders up. From here, we're gonna walk the hands out to where we feel confident we can maintain that hollow position and that we can walk it back in. Because we have to come back in, set the position again, continue walking out for the next rep. And we're gonna spend 20 seconds just kind of pausing on either end, but keeping it pretty dynamic, but making sure we're pausing so we have control and stability before we start the dynamic movement. From the knees, we establish our good strong plank first. So we press through the shoulders, we pull the ribs in, then we lower to the knees, and we do the same style walkout to the position that I feel confident that I can come back into my knee plank and then walk back out. So my goal is to maintain that good hollow throughout that knee plank. So not losing that engagement through the ribs, and that knee dropping can help in terms of maintaining that good hollow position so we can establish and work on getting further out and challenging that extended plank. After that, we move into our forearm plank, and I talked about a way to extend that plank if we are challenged by that 40-second time frame. So our forearm plank, we get our elbow stacked under the shoulder, we press through the shoulder so we're active, we step our feet back into that nice plank, we pull the ribs in, and we hold. So I'm just gonna keep my eyes looking slightly in front of my fingertips, my head's up, so I'm working on that good position. Now, if I'm losing position and I still have time, and I'm like, I still wanna keep my tension, I can lower my knees to the floor, and I don't lose any tension through that midsection. What it does is it just takes a little bit of load off the shoulders, so I can maintain that good, strong shoulder position. Now, if you start in the knee plank, that's fine. But we also want to establish that good plank first, so we find the hollow in the toes, and then drop the knees. So make sure, like our plank walkout, if you are going to drop to the knees, we establish the full plank first, and then find that knee plank position. It's a little bit easier to find the engagement in our full variation, and then we can take the knees down. Again, we have that for 3 rounds. That one gets really tough and really burny, so really focus on positions here, you guys. I want you to think about banking good time and good position and engagement. So if we need to, there's nothing wrong with resting, especially in between rounds for this one, so we can keep these movements clean. After that, though, we have one more set for the lower body. And it's gonna start off with some deadlifts. So we're gonna work on our dumbbell deadlift. There's a couple ways we can do this, and I'm going to show you three ways we can do this. We're going to stand over top of our dumbbell, so it's in a sumo position. I'm going to pull the hips back and down, so I'm in a good hinge, and I stand tall. Now we can continue holding to the center, so we can continue doing sumo deadlifts with that slightly wider stance, or we can work on a conventional deadlift with the dumbbell to the side, taking it down as deep as we can with a little narrower stance. Our goal, regardless of our variation, is to maintain that good hinge and that good back position. My weight is through my midfoot, my feet are flat, I'm nice and flat and strong, and holding strong throughout that entire lift as I move. Now the other variation we can also play with is a variation of sumo stance. What we do is we hold the dumbbell or kettlebell with 2 hands, and we take it down until that dumbbell touches the floor, and we stand tall. The hinge is the same, so regardless of what we do with the hand placement of the dumbbell, the hinge positioning and the movement mechanics are the same. So let's keep that strong, focus on that position. We have 20 seconds to get those hammies and glutes kind of fired up, and then our next 40 seconds, we step into that wide stance and we work on a nice, steady side lunge. So these don't have to be fast. I want you to think about a nice, smooth flow. Back and forth, making sure we take the hip to the heel, keeping the body tall, and that knee tracking the toe. So nice and smooth, taking it to your range of motion. And it doesn't have to be any faster than what I'm moving right now. This is meant to just be steady state flow so we can move right back into those deadlifts. All right? So we take 5 rounds down to that. If you'd like to rest in between those rounds, you can do that too, or not, and keep it steady for 5 minutes of steady state flow. I hope you guys have fun with this work set today, you guys. As a quick recap, we have 5 rounds, foot assisted pistol, 20 seconds, which is 10 seconds per leg. Dumbbell suitcase march, which is 40 seconds, 20 seconds per side. Right back through to the foot assisted pistol for 5 rounds. You get a minute of transition. We're gonna move into 3 rounds of our plank walkout for 20 seconds, holding for a beat or 2 on either end of the movement, knees or toes. Then you'll go into your forearm plank hold, maintaining tension, strong shoulders, nice position, knees or toes, or a combination of the two, depending on your comfort with the knee plank. You'll get a 60-second rest, and then we have 1 more work set for 5 rounds. Dumbbell deadlift for 20 seconds. If you're doing a single hand hold, 20 seconds one side, 10 seconds one side, 10 seconds the other. Then you're gonna move into that unloaded side lunge for 40 seconds of just steady state flow. You'll do that for 5 rounds, and then you're done. And you'll stretch yourself out, have a good day, and continue on. Again, like all our strength work and our work sets, you guys, continue again, focus on that quality movement, bring that intensity with it, all right, and have a lot of fun with this one, you guys. I'm looking forward to hearing about this work set. Let me know how it goes. Until then, have fun, and we'll see you very, very soon. Bye, you guys.